Welcome to Janktown. Duskmourn spoilers are in full swing, and as soon as I saw the new Aminatou, I got pretty hyped. I love all the color combinations, but Esper's just got a special place in my heart. Now, if you haven't visited the channel before, I like to do a quick analysis of our commander, talk about the deck's themes, and end with specific card choices of our deck. Now, as a general rule of thumb, I do try to avoid cards that are like $10, $15+ just so we don't end up with like the same usuals or end up with like a money pile of good cards. So if that sounds good to you, I hope you can subscribe, help me out in the algorithm a little bit, and let's get into it. Aminatou is a commander that can give us card advantage with her surveillability, but also ramp us when she gives us a discount. So already at the onset, this is a pair of powerful effects for a commander to have, and I think for more optimized builds, she's best suited as like an enabler of our deck, aka our deck runs fine without her, but it'll just run so much better when she's around. But I think a more fun way would be to treat her like a build around. It allows us a unique take on Enchantress by going with like top-end big mana enchantments rather than the whole going wide with a whole bunch of low to the ground, flood the board with enchantments kind of playstyle. Now, of course, this only works if we cast the enchantments as a miracle. Aminatou is a miracle worker, you know, she's Miracle Thaw.
You need Miracle Thaw.
Sorry, I'm a 90s kid, so when I hear Miracle, I think Miracle Thaw. I don't know if you know that product. Now, to take full advantage of her mana-reducing miracle ability, we're gonna want to be able to draw even on other players' turns. And this is because the way Miracle works, it ignores timing restrictions. As long as it's the first card we drew for that turn, we can immediately play that card for its miracle cost. It's like she gives flash without really giving flash. Now, something to keep in mind though is that Aminatou is gonna be color pip hungry. She only reduces the cost of generic mana, meaning if we have a card or an enchantment that costs 2 and a white, we'll still need to pay for the white pip. So with that in mind, our deck is going to consist of 7 themes, and we'll have our usuals of ramp, removal, and draw, but I'll also cover our other themes of top deck manipulation, stakes, sides, and something we like to call UBP or utilities, bombs, and pets. Ramp is essential to our game plan, and we're hungry for pips, so this is actually why I cut Soul Ring from the deck. Bauble, Signet, still all-star staples, and they're just great early game plays. I'm also bringing all 3 talismans because they can tap for 2 colors, and Felver Stone is a less painful, although sometimes less reliable version of them. I'm also bringing a pair of Signets, Dimir and Azorius, and I value these a little less because while they can produce colors, we do need some mana to power them up, and they don't produce things like double blue or double white. Now, 3-drop rocks have fallen out of favor with many players, but I'm bringing a pair in Chromatic Lantern, just fixes all our color problems, and Victory Chimes. It just gives us a mana every turn, which is good if we're trying to play something every turn, and it can also power up our signets. Lastly, I wanted to bring 1 top-end ramp spell, and ultimately I went with Gilded Lotus. Comes out a little late, but it does jump you ahead quite a bit. And despite the ramp, we're running a fairly slow deck, so removal is going to be key in keeping us alive. Anguish Unmaking, Lauren the Third Path, just super solid staples, and I value Lauren allowing us to draw on another player's turn, just to potentially trigger a miracle. We're also bringing a trio of Wraths in Consouls Crackdown, just to deal with these artifact decks. Vanquish the Horde's a 2-drop wipe, and the Eternal Wanderer. She gets around Indestructible, Hexproof, Shroud, Ward, all these things, and she also keeps her commander alive. Just good stuff right there. Now, since we're playing Enchantress, we might as well play some enchantment-based removal, and Confiscate and In Bolus's Clutches are a pair of theft effects that can steal any problematic permanent on the board, while Corrupted Conscience is a theft effect, and it gives us a clock, you know, it might be something we'll need. Lastly, we're in blue, so we're playing a Miser counterspell in Arcane Denial. It's an effective counterspell, and I like that it can draw us a card even when it's not our turn. We keep talking about drawing cards, and honestly, it's an important piece of our game plan. We're running a generic card draw spell in Struggle for Project Purity. This is one of my favorite cards from recent sets, and it's pretty much like a Rhystic Study, or like a Rhystic Study at home, you know? However, we do place value in drawing on other players' turns, and Mystic Remora lets us draw whenever an opponent plays a non-creature spell no one's paying the for. Curse of Verbosity works when they attack a certain player, and both Psychic Possession and Mind's Eye lets us draw whenever someone else draws a card. But these these cards do rely on our opponent doing something, and so we'd want proactive ways to draw even when it's not our turn. Rona and Vohar both loot, letting us draw as an activated ability. And Tenuous Truce is a funny card, kinda gives an opponent the monarchy, but it also lets us draw on their end step. Temple Bell, just a classic. Sure, it lets the whole table draw, but hopefully we're casting a bomb from whatever we drew. So what's a bomb? Something like Mind's Dilation. It's a 7-drop, hopefully we can cast it for 3, and we can accrue a lot of card advantage over the course of even just one turn cycle. To draw the perfect card though, we gotta set ourselves up for success. Brainstorm, Brainstone, and the OG Planeswalker version of Aminatou all let us draw while also loading the top of our decks using cards from our hand. Crystal Ball, Sigiled Starfish, Sinister Starfish, and Dakan Shadow Slayer are all repeatable ways to manipulate the top of our deck with abilities around Scry, Surveil, things like this. And Doom Whisperer is almost like a tutor if we have enough life. You know, just keep paying the 2 life and just keep surveilling until we get to the card that we want to see. Lastly, there's Penance. So not only can this host like aggressive Rakdos decks, Voltron Boros Commanders, Red Dragons, Black Demons, things like this, it also lets us load the top of our deck with whatever we have in our hand. Now, an important rules quirk about this card is that it doesn't target. So it's kind of like a weird edge case in the rules. But yeah, even if there are no like black or red sources that we want to prevent damage from, we can still activate Penance's ability and load the top of our library. Let's get into the juicy stuff, aka our stakes. Because if Aminatou is like Miracle Thaw,
You need Miracle Thaw.
these are like the big haymakers that she can get on the board way early, way ahead of curve. You know, if we just let her cook. Let her cook! Baneful Omen lets us gobble up chunks of life on our end step if we leave like a big spell on top of our library, while Demon of Fate's design can be a huge flamping threat that can, cheat out a stake, but also pump itself up to like threaten lethal. I also love hating on card draw, and Curse of Fool's Wisdom is a surprisingly efficient killer while also buffing up our life total. And Price of Knowledge, I mean, the art is just so metal, and it can punish greedy opponents who just always sit there with a full grip. Now, sometimes you go up against opponents who don't really draw too many cards, so these two might not be that impressive. But wait, there's more! Forced Fruition is a way to force feed opponents' cards, and even on its own, it can mill people out, because they'll only have a limited number of spells to kill us before they die. Deader Snell lets us reanimate any creature from any graveyard on our upkeep, and Extravagant Replication lets us copy any permanent during our upkeep, and these two can just accrue us a lot of value if they're just left unchecked, which can happen if you get them down early.
Miracle Thaw.
Fall of the Thron is a mass land destruction spell and an enchantment, and I know people hate land destruction, but at least this refunds them 4 lands over like the course of 2 turns. Our mana rocks are gonna shine though, and our mana reduction from Aminatou gonna be more important than ever. Last card is Thought Render Lamia, which can hurt our opponents with discard, and unless they're playing like Reanimator or Graveyard strategies, this card always hurts in Commander. Everybody hates discarding down to hand size, and so even without storming off to have them like discard their whole hand, a few triggers from this card will hurt. Now, if Aminatou does get hated out, it's not like our game is over. We just gotta wait the normal amount of time before essentially our stakes defrost. This just works so much better when we use Miracle Thaw.
You need Miracle Thaw.
Now, aside from our stakes, we do have some sides that just round out our meal and give it that extra oomph. Sigil of the Empty Throne poops out 4/4 angels for every enchantment we play, and Shark Typhoon can poop out flying sharks. Now, we're not storming off with enchantments, so neither of these are gonna go wide super quick, but hey, these are great threats to have on the side. Similarly, Starfield of Nyx can turn all our big mana enchantments into a board of big boys, and Zur the Eternal Schemer is a card that can permanently turn our enchantments into an army of Death Touch, Hexproof Lifelinkers. Finally, a non-enchantment based threat, and Treat the Angels, a classic miracle card, and it can generate a big board out of nowhere, or at the very least, give us a few flyers, just enough for us to stabilize. UVV time! These are just some cards to help hold the deck together and just make it run smoother. Shadow of the Second Sun lets us untap and draw after our second main, and it also gives us another upkeep for cards like Deader Snell or Extravagant Replication. Unwinding Clock lets us reuse all our mana rocks, even Temple Bell on every turn, and Mirror Maid lets us double up our order on stakes, sides, or anything else we might need. Rule of Law and Eidolon of Rhetoric are just ways to slow the game down, because it does take some time and some mana for us to set up, and plus since we're playing enchantments as instant speed, we might be able to circumvent this whole one spell a turn clause. Dawnstrue's Flare of Fortitude just means to protect our whole board from getting wiped. Finally, Resurgent Relief. It reads kinda slow because it has to spend 2, and 2 turns can feel like a lifetime in EDH. But I believe that this card can be played preemptively. Like, I think it'll still work. If you play it even without a board wipe being played, it will stop your opponents from potentially wiping your board because they know that you're about to get it all back again. And so having that one extra turn cycle of us being able to just keep all our stuff might just be enough to be able to win the game. Hope you guys enjoyed that video, and if you found it useful, I'd really appreciate it if you could like, share, and subscribe. Those things really help the channel out. I'm looking forward to more Duskmourn cards. I'm sure Aminatou is gonna get more support when the Precon deck list gets spoiled. But if you like cheating out other big things into play, you might want to check out my Kalia video that I updated for 2024. Till next time, stay inspired, friends, and I'll see you soon.